Hi everyone, and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest version of Mission Control. Version 1.54 gets released onto the App Exchange on Friday the 15th of May. And we've got a few cool new features, so let's jump in and start taking a look. So some of the main features that we've got coming in this release are a new object that will allow you to create project requests. You can also take a look at the brand new Kanban whiteboard. So there's been a major overhaul on the existing main whiteboard. We've added in some additional logic into some components that will allow you to integrate time logging through to the case object. The existing Create Actions page has been rebuilt and additional functionality has been added to that. And some enhancements around the time log and expense objects, preventing you from deleting records in specific scenarios. And we've also got a couple of minor enhancements where the team and skill filters have been enhanced to give you the ability to toggle between applying and or filter logic. Minor enhancement to the role, allowing you to exclude it from the scheduler, and we've also included a button on the project record that lets you generate the project status report as and when you need it. So super excited about this new object. So this is really going to give you a lot of flexibility. So in the same way that we introduced the ability to auto-generate projects from an opportunity, we've added in this new object that will really give you similar functionality from any object that you want. So the object is called Project Request. Out of the box, it comes linked to some of the key standard objects such as lead, account, contact, opportunity, and case. But you can very easily add that to integrate it with any other object simply by creating a lookup field. So you're able to create the project request manually, or you could automate the creation of the project request record via a process builder. And we'll take a closer look at that shortly. So as I mentioned, the main whiteboard has had a major overhaul. So all of the existing functionality still exists, but with a lot more really cool features. So you've got the ability now to collapse your cards. So if you've got a lot of information there and you're looking to get like a snapshot rather than a detailed view of each card, you can collapse the cards, or you can expand as required. You've also got a lot more configurable options on the card. So you can pick and choose which aspects of the card are displayed to people. So for example, you might be not using the time logging feature within Mission Control. So if you want to hide the clock from the card, it's an easy setting change. We've also got the ability to choose, obviously we could always change the column heading, but we've also now got the ability to pick and choose which of the column heading sections we display. So for example, your pick list might have 10 different values, but you only want to be showing 5 of them as columns on the whiteboard. So you have the ability to filter that down. And you can also control all of the settings at a centralized place, which you can do on the control pad of the console. So again, really excited about these the case integration. So 2 existing components that we've got, which is only going to be available for Lightning Experience users, but you've got the add action component and the log time component. They've both been updated to where they will support being added onto the case record. So you can edit your Lightning Experience page in the Lightning App Builder. You can add these two components onto the case page layout, and that will give you the ability to create a new action relating to the case, and then you can log time from that as well. So the existing Create Actions page was always a really versatile tool that allowed you to quickly create a lot of actions in one go, as well as creating contributors and checklist items as well. That was due an update, so we actually took that opportunity to provide some additional experiences to that as well. So not only is it now the ability to create actions, you can also edit existing records as well. So really good way of quickly applying bulk changes to a lot of your actions. So this comes as a request from a few different clients. We've had requests where they don't want their users to be able to delete records if they've already been approved or invoiced. So we've added some settings onto the control pad within Mission Control, allowing you to turn on a setting that will prevent users from deleting a time log if it's been approved and or if it's been invoiced. And in a similar manner, we've added that same logic to the expenses as well. So you'll see two additional settings that will prevent deletions of approved or invoiced expenses. In addition to that, we've also enhanced the approvals process around expenses. So previously, it was very much just driven by the expense approver nominated on the roles record. Now, at an individual project level, you can specify whether the project manager should approve it and or the individual person's line manager. And then the minor enhancements there. So across all of the key pages, such as the scheduler, the whiteboard, the action pad, and so on, we've applied some updates when you're searching based on teams. So if you're looking, for example, to filter the scheduler by particular teams or by particular skills, it was always using or logic. So the person would be in this team or in this team. So we've now introduced the ability for you to choose whether you're wanting to apply or logic or and logic. So you'll see that there's these and or toggle buttons, and you can control the logic that you're filtering by. There's also a new field being added to the role object, allowing you to tick a checkbox, which will exclude that role from being displayed on the scheduler. And the project status report continues to be a very popular feature, and as well as being able to issue it out via the weekly process to your project stakeholders, customers asked us for the ability to generate that on demand. So we've now added a button onto the project record, which allows you to generate that PDF as and when you need it. Okay, so demo time. Let's jump in and take a look at some of those major features in a bit more detail. So as I mentioned, we have a new object called project request, which is being added in to give you the ability to submit requests for new projects. This can be done manually by coming in and creating a new project directly from the project request tab. So I could click on new, and you'll see there's some fairly basic fields that you need to fill in. So ultimately, I'm going to be putting in a project name, a project request summary, what my proposed budget is, and I can also specify a template that I want to use when I'm ready to generate this project. So this will look up any existing templates that we have in the system. I can specify a start date. So that's as much as I would need to fill in to submit the request. And I can also relate it to an appropriate record that I'm requesting it from. In addition to that, when it's been reviewed and we're ready to actually generate, we click the Generate Project button, and that will automatically clone the entire project specified in the project template. So very similar to the opportunities method on the opportunity auto generation feature, it will take a copy of the project, the milestones, the actions, the checklist items, contributors, and dependencies. So I can create it manually here, obviously being related to any of these objects. If I go over to a lead, for example, I'll have the related list that I've added to my page layout. So again, similar to what I was just showing you, we can create them manually from here. So that's the project request object. However, we can also add in your own automation, so via a process builder to actually auto-generate projects as well. So as an example, this isn't part of the actual feature, this is just configuration as an example. What I've done is actually added a custom field that allows me to tick this box, and behind that is sitting a process builder. So I'll just show you my process builder. Again, this is just an example. So I've created it to run on the lead object. My evaluation criteria is my custom field, my generate project field, does it equal true? If it does, I want to create a project request record. So I'm specifying that I want to auto generate. So I'm setting the generate project field to true. I'm relating it to my lead. I'm specifying a project name as well as project request summary, start date, and I've specified the ID of the project template that I want to use. So by creating that scenario, what I'm able to do is straight from my record, I can actually just click and edit, set that field to true, and then when I save that, that process builder will run and auto generate the entire project for me. So using that project request object, but the fact that I've set that field, that generate project to true, it automatically generates it. So it's created the project request, and then if I click into that, you'll see that the project has automatically been generated as a result of this field being set to true. So then I can click straight through into that, and there is my brand new project created in Mission Control, ready for me to use. So a lot of different scenarios that you could be using using this object for, and we're certainly looking forward to hearing how you put it to good use. So we're now going to take a look at the whiteboard and all of the new features that have been added to that. So all of the existing functionalities I mentioned before, that all still exists. So the ability to change headings from one value to the next. You can drag and drop actions from one column to another column to change their status. One additional feature that has been added in that I know a lot of people were looking for was the ability to actually change the priority order of things in a column. So what you can do now is actually drag this up and change the order of the priority. So you can say, even though this might be due before this is due, this is a bigger priority than that one on my list, so I want to move it up there. You can also see that we've actually got the ability to collapse and expand the cards here. So by clicking on this icon here, I can expand to see more information, or I can collapse if I want to hide that away. I've also got the ability to do a mass collapse or expand over here as well. So additional functionality that you've got on the card. So you've also got the ability to see some summary information down the bottom here. So how many hours are scheduled, how many hours have been completed. Of our checklists, how many have we ticked off, and do we have any open issues on this action as well? We also see we've got our end date warning. So a red warning sign means it's overdue. A yellow warning sign means it's due in the next couple of days. And then also we have a progress bar just quickly showing us the completion percentage of the action. So we've got access to all of the things that we're used to seeing, like the chatter feed, the checklist items, the issue manager. We can log time from here, and we also have the ability to jump in and take a look at an action. So if I click into that, I can get through to view the overall page layout. I can edit or delete if I need to, and I can also access the resource assignment wizard if I need to get in and bring in some contributors to help me. Okay, so as I mentioned, obviously we can collapse individual cards. We can also over here I can do a mass expand of everything or a mass collapse of everything as well. Few other features that I want to talk about. Whilst we're looking at all of we're looking at the status column heading, and it's showing us all of the values from that pick list field. What you can also do here is actually click in and choose which of those values you want to see columns for. So you can actually do a bit of a sub selection there and say, I'm not interested in seeing those columns, so remove those from my view. Obviously I can easily add them back in as well. So obviously, if I hover over where I can see where people are contributing to the action, again, standard functionality that we already have. So each column now scrolls on its own, so that makes for a better experience. So you don't lose sight of what you've got in your on hold column if you're down the bottom of your in progress column. You can also expand and collapse the roles tab now, and that will be persistently remembered. So if you don't use that very often, you can collapse it and just leave it hidden out of the way. Now that brings me to another thing. So we've given you the ability to customize the whiteboard in a lot more detail. So just expanding that card again. Obviously, we've got a lot of fields here. You can again change some of these fields. So the top 4 are static, but the bottom 5 you can choose what you're displaying there. But each one of these components, you can specify whether you're using that. So for example, if we don't want to use the log time feature, we can go into the settings and actually turn that off. So I'll run through all of the settings here. So on the card views, you've got the option to you can have both options of detail and compact, or you can say we only ever want to use the compact view, or we only ever want to use the detail view. You can also set a default, so for any new actions being created, that's the view that they would have by default. So this section here is where we're selecting the fields that we have visible. So as I say, the top 4 are static, but these 5 fields specify the information that's placed at this part of the card. So you can also hide, whether you've got the ability to add an action, the quick add action, which I'll show you in a moment, and you can actually turn that roll tab off altogether. So if you don't want people to be able to drag and drop to reassign, you can turn that off. The other really cool feature here, we introduced in a recent release the ability for you to specify the color of the bars on the Gantt chart based on the status value. So we've given you the ability to either to how you determine the color that's specified on the action card is either from the color field on the project record, or you can choose to display it based on the Gantt chart status value settings. So that's just an option for you to have there. So then additional features that you can turn on and off of the card. So you can turn off each individual feature. So as I mentioned, if I don't want to use the time logs, I turn that off, and then the clock will be hidden from my view. Now we've also got the ability to actually manage all of these settings centrally via the console. So if I just open up the Mission Control console and jump in there. So on the control pad, if I scroll down, we'll come to the whiteboard settings section. So all of the settings I've just ran you through, you can do that here as well. And then you can override that. So once you've overridden it from the control pad, individual users won't be able to actually access the settings tab themselves directly on the whiteboard. So filters, we've got the filters. They're very much the same as before. You've got the ability to create preset filters or filter down. The main feature, which is one of the minor enhancements, is the ability to toggle between the and or buttons there. So the other feature we've got here is the ability to actually quickly create new actions. So rather than having to go through and click the add action button and create all of the detail needed, you can quickly create a new project here. So I can select the project. I can select the milestone that I want to add it to. And then I can hit enter, and that will automatically create the action for me. One other enhancement we've added within the role filters is the ability, so you can actually create persistent settings for the role filters. You've also got the ability to actually turn on this feature where it will only show you roles that are actively assigned to the work you're already looking at. So for example, if I've got this whiteboard filtered to one particular project, and I only want to see people that are actually working on the project, I can turn that toggle filter on, and the people in here will only be roles where they already have ownership of something on the project. So a lot of new functionality to get playing with. So really hope you enjoy all of that, and look forward to hearing your feedback. So looking at the functionality that we've added to help you log time from the case object. So we've got 2 existing components that you're probably already familiar with, the add action component and the log time component. Now you'll have seen these in various places, including the utility bar and the trackpad. So these 2 components have been updated to where they can be added to the case object. So we've also added a field on the case object called action, which allows you to look up an existing action to relate the case to an action on a project. So if you see here, I've got this action field, so I could click into there and then associate this to an existing action I've already created. But I'm not going to do that in this example. What I'm going to do is actually jump over to this add action tab here. So as I say, this is the add action component that you'll already have been used to seeing in and around mission control. So what this allows me to do is from this case, I can actually look up an existing project project. So the scenario being, as a support ticket has come in from a customer, and I want to associate this to a project in order to be able to log time against it. So I'm selecting the project. I'm selecting the milestone. I'm the owner. I'm putting in the details. So I'm going to say here it's case 00100 support request. So I'll say I expect to get this done in 1 hour. So if I scroll down, I can click on create. That goes away, creates the action. And it will also, if I just refresh this page here, you'll see that it will also automatically populate that action field on the case record for me. So now I've got my case associated to that newly created action on my project. So what that means is now when I click on the log time component, it will automatically identify the case that I've just created that this case relates to, so I can quickly log time. So I can enter notes, I can log my time, put in the hours, and then click the log time button, and that's created a time log against that action, but it's also related it to the case. So if I click on my related tab, I'll see now that I've got my time log entry there. So a couple of things just to walk you through there. So to add these two components, this entire feature is only available within Lightning Experience because it relies on the Lightning App Builder. But these two components can be added to the case page layout. So you do that by clicking on the settings icon and clicking Edit Page. So I've obviously already done this, but I'm just going to walk you through what I've done. So first of all, on my page, I've added two extra columns, two tabs. So I've created two custom tabs, called it Add Action, called it Log Time. So then on the Add Action, I've added the Add Action component. And so that automatically adds there, and then I've added the log time component here as well. So once I've done that, I obviously save, and then that makes those two components available from my case object. The other thing to be aware of, anyone that you're wanting to use the functionality from the case record, we've included a permission set specifically around those fields. So if I go to users and permission sets, so there is a new permission set called mission control case fields. So this gives you all of the access to the various fields that we've created that the case functionality relies on. So you'll want to make sure that you assign this to any user that wants to use that feature. So we're going to take a look at the Create Actions page. So as I mentioned, this has been enhanced now to give you additional functionality. So as usual, I would access it by going to my project page and clicking on the Create Actions button. Now, it might not be located here, it might be located further down the list depending on how you've got yours set up. So if I click on the Create Actions page, so there's a few different features here. So as usual, we've got the one record ready to fill in, so we can put that in. We've got the ability to add more, so if we needed to add more to the list, we can do that. The other benefit is we can quickly create new actions here as well. So what I'll do is actually just reset this page to where I've just got the one action. Okay, so rather than actually adding in multiple blank rows there, what I can do is actually just populate my first row. And then from there, what I can do is actually start using this quick create. So rather than having to add new rows, I can just come in here and start creating new records. So the benefit of that, obviously, it's able to quickly just create a lot of records, just adding it to the bottom of the list. So the additional changes, I've got the ability to look up the milestones. So the benefit here is on both the milestone and the action owner, these are now searchable lookup fields rather than just pick lists. So this makes it a much better experience because you're able to actually start typing in and filtering down and finding the relevant actions or milestones, for example. So over on the so if I select this is going to be part of the design milestone, when I start searching for an action owner, depending on the number of roles I've got. I might, previously it was a big long pick list, whereas now I can filter down and find the relevant people there. Okay, so I'm once again just going to refresh this page. So one of the other features that I want to talk to you about is now this page doesn't only let you create new actions. What it does is allows you to edit existing actions as well. So there's a toggle located up in the top right here. So this allows you to turn on the feature to display existing actions. So if I turn that on, it loads in any existing action I've already got created on the record. So this is going to be a great way if you need to make changes to a lot of the actions on your project. For example, you might need to change the hours, to change the dates, to change the ownership, or even get in and add contributors and checklist items. So the fact that you can now edit existing records is really going to help to make a lot of changes in bulk across the whole project. So we've added in some settings on the control pad that will prevent you from deleting time logs and expenses under certain scenarios. So on the control pad, if I scroll down to the project automation settings section, you'll find there's four new features here. So disable deletion of approved time logs, disable deletion of invoice time logs, disable deletion of approved expenses, and disable deletion of invoiced expenses. Hopefully each setting is fairly self-explanatory. But if you want to prevent your users from, for example, deleting time logs where they've already been approved, you can enable that setting, click on save, and then and that will be enabled. So now if I jump over to a time log and I try and delete that, I'm going to get served with an error that's saying I'm unable to delete the approved time log. So back on those settings, obviously the other one, if you want to prevent people from deleting time logs that have already been invoiced, you enable that. If you want to prevent people from deleting approved expenses, enable this feature. And then if you want to prevent people from deleting invoiced expenses, you would enable this one as well. So each one of these will come disabled. They'll be set to false by default, but if you want to enable them, it's simply a case of ticking the boxes and clicking on save over there. So the other enhancement we've made to the expense object is giving you the ability to have a broader range of options around approvals. So previously there was a field on the role record that said expense approver, and that identified the person that was responsible for approving expenses. What we've done now is included two additional fields on the project object that allows you to specify whether expenses relating to this project actually need to be approved, and if so, by whom. So if I scroll down in my expenses section, now you might need to add these fields to your page layout as part of the new release, but you'll see here I've now got the ability for this project to say I need my project owner to approve it, and or I also need the expense approver from the person's role record to approve it as well. So if either of these are ticked, these people will need to review and approve the expenses. If this is unticked, only the project owner needs to approve. If only the role manager is ticked, then obviously only the role manager needs to approve. If both of those are ticked, if both of those are set to false, and the expense relates to a project, then the expense will automatically be set to approved. If the expense does not relate to a project, and the person that is incurring the expense does have a nominated expense approver on their role record, then that will require approval as well. So you've got those that extended functionality around specifying individual projects, who and whether approval is required. So now when you go to your expenses tab and you go to expenses requiring my approval, you'll see that my expense list view filters are showing me anything where I am the role manager or the project owner that needs to approve these expenses, and then obviously I will be able to quickly edit and update them via the list view here. Okay, so that's all of the features in the demo today. So let's now look at the release schedule. So as normal, the process is that we make it available on the App Exchange. That's going to be available as of Friday, the 15th of May. As of the 23rd of May, we're going to do an automatic upgrade to all sandbox orgs. And then on the 30th of May, we'll do an automatic upgrade to all production orgs. With all of that said, obviously, thank you for your time, taking the time to watch the webinar. Hope you're as excited as we are with all of these new features. And as always, we'd love to hear any new suggestions that you've got to make the product bigger and better. Hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.